Welcome to Shallow. Join us as we explore the topics that are always on our minds. From beauty and wellness trends to balancing our careers and ambitions, these conversations fill our WhatsApp inboxes and social media feeds. We're diving into pop culture and asking the question, is it really that deep?
This week, we're diving into the question, are we all dressing the same? In an age where social media dictates so much of what's in, it's hard not to notice the increasing uniformity in how we dress. From viral trends to influencers shaping our wardrobes, it seems like personal style is becoming less about individuality and more about conformity. We'll talk about the growing sense of trend fatigue, financial strain, and how fashion itself is constantly shifting. Let's dive in.
Lucy Bell, how are you?
I'm very well. I've had an amazing day.
She has.
Ask me about it.
How was your day?
It was great. So we're currently in November and it is snowing back at home in the UK. You know, it's very cold. My friend's messaging me, you know, she's in like -1 degree in the morning, like 6 a.m. So I'm feeling a bit smug because, you know, I've had the day at the beach, you know, I've laid around like a cat all day. You know, I did a really lovely walk. And yeah, I'm just living my best life here, honestly, and I don't want to go back.
She's giving big smug pug energy.
Real smug energy.
I've been in the office all day. I feel very jealous. It was such a glorious day here, but I'm very happy you had a good day.
I know, and you know, I try to be humble about it, but
Humble
the smile
brag.
on my face says otherwise.
So I think today we kind of wanted to talk a bit about fashion, and it's weird because the other day we were kind of sending our shopping lists and pics kind of back and forth, and I mean they were almost identical, weren't they?
I mean, think white t-shirt, you know, blue jean shorts.
Yeah.
You've got it in a nutshell.
Like, and obviously we're friends, it's not just us, but like you walk down any street and you'll see it, right? This kind of blending of fashion and this kind of undeniable homogenization of the style kind of everywhere you look. And I think when we were thinking about this and researching this episode, I stumbled across this piece in Vogue by Julia Hobbs called From Mobwife to Coastal Grandma, Why Do We All Dress the Same? As an explosion of algorithm-powered trends take over our screens, Julia Hobbs explores the burgeoning counterculture also going viral.
Can I just cut in there?
Yes.
Because you told me what a coastal grandma was yesterday because I had no clue. And I know I don't want to like go on about my beach day too much and like, you know, alienate myself on this episode. But I was like kind of sat there, you know, watching the world go by in my own little world, and I saw so many coastal grandmas, and I was like, oh my God, look at her linen shirt and her linen white trousers and her linen. She had like literally had the same linen shirt as a towel. It was like the exact same print.
Oh my God.
And then she had like the kind of wickery tote bag, and I was like, coastal grandma. And then I looked to my left, coastal grandma. I was like, everything's giving coastal grandma. And then I was at the flower market this morning. Had a horrible day, I don't know if you know that. I was at the flower market and there was like, you know, a little clothes stall, and it was just coastal grandma core. And I was like,
Are you a coastal grandma?
am I just like, was I just not aware of it because I am one?
Is this fucking play about us?
Is this play about me? Yeah, I'll stop being insufferable now. And
No,
get on with the
I
episode.
love that. It's I remember when we were like structuring out the episode and you were like, what the fuck is a coastal grandma? And I was like, how have you not heard of this? Just before we get there, and we're going to dive into this topic and the themes that the article touches on, Lucy, like, how would you describe your personal style? Like, are you a sucker for a trend? Where do you get your inspo?
So I've always kind of been a bit of a basics girly. I am a basic bitch. I love my classic style. Sorry.
I mean, if we're both very basic.
I love my classic style. I love like a black polo neck with long sleeves with like high-waisted jeans.
Like chic Parisian vibes.
Yeah, Parisian, like stripes, red, white linen shirt, Cezanne vibes, like that's who I am.
Bit
And
like Alexa Chungy.
yeah, I would say so. Like that kind of like, I do like a bit of a leather jacket. I like a knee-high boot, you know, that kind of classic style that just like, it's the style that just never goes out, right? And you could say it's probably what everyone else is wearing, but like I've always kind of been like that. Even when I was a teenager, I kind of just wore like black skirt, black top,
Yeah.
knee-high black boots, and I kind of didn't stray from it. But yeah, I do kind of experiment with color now. Like my favorite color is blue. I love blue, and it's a very specific type of blue. It's like a sky blue, if anyone was wondering. But yeah, what would you say your personal style is?
I mean, super similar. Like, it's hilarious because we're about to blame this all on social media, but I think everything you just said. Like, I love a black roll neck, and I mean, I don't wear a lot of them now because it's quite warm over here in Australia, but when the time calls.
I would never have guessed, from my day out today, I never would have guessed.
High-waisted jeans. I'm not a low-waisted girly. I have tried. I can do mid-rise at best.
Cigarette trousers?
Yeah. I have tried them on a few times. I think they've got to be tailored to like perfection on me, and I haven't found really the right pair. I definitely live in trainers. I think I'm a big comfort is priority gal. Also, I think I just wear a lot of classic basic bitch activewear now as well. It's what you do over here, and I have been an absolute sucker for it. But yeah, if I was to probably wrap that up in a bow, like pretty classic, pretty simple, like don't do big bright colors, clashing prints, but I do have like, a little bit of edge, like a tough pair of boots and a black leather jacket.
I always kind of think of it like the roll neck with the cigarette trousers. It's because I looked kind of Audrey Hepburn, and like I love her, like it was very like simple, the kind of classic fitted dresses with the A-line skirts, skater dresses. If I'm going out to an event, I'll always wear like the crew neck black dress, like or like a little Bardo black dress. I do try and like stray from it, but every time I do, I'm like, oh, but it just looks so much better if it's just basic, and like call me a basic hun one more time.
It suits you though, and I think you found your lane, and if it works, right? Kind of like moving on to like the first thing they touched on in the article, which is the algorithmic influence on fashion. So they go on to talk about how social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram influence and press fast forward on these fashion trends, creating fast moving cycles where trends such as mob wife, coastal grandma, and tomato girl quickly rise and fall. And I think we have to stop at tomato girl.
I mean, this was another one. I mean, say I've been living under a rock because I've been introduced to coastal grandma and tomato girl, and do you know what? I feel like I'd have been defo on board with the tomato girl. It's a right bit of up my street.
It's a bit of you.
Let me just read you out this L description of tomato girl because it's absolutely hilarious. Tomato girls wear floaty linen dresses. Their hair is unstyled and wavy from their morning swim in the sea, and their makeup is natural, other than their red lipstick, of course. The only jewellery they wear is an antique ring passed down from their grandmother, but they probably carry a basket filled with vegetables from the market. I mean, what can you say to that? Sign me up.
I mean, that description, I felt like I was listening to an audiobook.
Honest. Brand deal?
Yeah.
Audible, where are you?
We should put music under that.
Can we please put music under that? Just some like lapping waves, and just like a core of like a seagull or something. No, it's funny because one of my really good friends, she's Italian, and she always has these like summer holidays in Sicily where her grandma lives, and like she always has these like coastal holidays, and this is the image that I imagine that she will be living while she like steps out of her like grandma's house by the coast to the sea, and she's like wearing this linen dress and with an antique ring. Honestly, the antique ring's hilarious. Can somebody pass me down an antique ring?
That would be nice.
And
I think
I
that
can
was
start my actual tomato girl,
I think you're giving tomato girl summer right now. Like if you were embodying something right now, it's what you just described. Like she's swimming in the sea, she's wearing linen dresses, the makeup's natural, she's glowing. So there's a quote from the article which says, TikTok fashion trends can rise and fall in a matter of months or even weeks, says Maud Lapata. Apologies if I butchered that, but she's the tech industry insider behind Data But Make It Fashion, an Instagram account reporting on the stream of something called lighting up our intangible social circles, which might soon become bad stock. She says the mob wife aesthetic started coming up mid-January. 2.5 months later, it's already been out for a month, she says. So do you think these trend cycles disproportionately affect younger generations, or do you think we're all susceptible? Because obviously she's talking about TikTok here and a lot of kind of these Instagram algorithmic fashion trends, which makes me naturally go to the younger generations. So Luce, do you think that it disproportionately affects them, or do you think we're just all like on the same bandwagon here.
So I have thought about this, and I do think maybe the teenagers of today and the younger generation, maybe part of our generation, but maybe 10 years younger, are kind of losing that individualism because of social media. And like, you know, the article states, the mob wife aesthetic is already a thing of the past a month in. Like it's been and done, something new's come in. And I don't know how much that like leaves for somebody to create an individual style, because if they're constantly looking what the next thing is, they're cycling through different trends and styles monthly even. And obviously we've got this whole thing with like fast fashion and things like that. So, and it's a lot more easier to access fast fashion as well. You can get like ASOS next day, Shein, you know, you can pay for express delivery, and it's super cheap as well. So like teenagers on a budget who maybe have like 20 quid, like, you know, you can get a haul of clothes with that. And I feel like, you know, maybe me and you, we had a bit more of a limited access to these things because we kind of relied on the TV or magazines that we maybe got with pocket money every week, or, you know, we'd have to sit down at a computer and Google image search celebrities that we wanted to look at, and it would be because we're like interested in them. So take a shot, Taylor Swift. I would just like sit there and be like, Taylor Swift, what's she wearing now? Red tour, like, blah, blah, blah.
You would have to go out and seek it rather than being targeted.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, you know, I had maybe like an LG cookie when I was like 15, 16. And, you know, it's not very like easy to just be like, there was not the element of like scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through TikTok. Whereas now it's like they're on TikTok shop when they're scrolling through TikTok
Tip top.
They're buying things, you know, like a fraction of the price, you know. This is giving coastal grandma, you know, this is giving tomato girl, like, and then, you know, everyone else is being fed that as well. So what are you going to do? Everyone's dressing the same.
I think also there's an element as well to like brands now go to the consumer. The consumer isn't going to the brand. And I'm being general about that. But like, I think there is an element, especially with, you know, Gen Zs, like they've never had to like seek out fashion. Like it comes to them just purely at their fingertips. But I think I just want to like walk down memory lane for a minute and like talk about how it was like, you know, when we were teens, back in our day, teens going into early 20s. It was like, when I think back to that, it was all about kind of like indie sleaze, and then it was about like the bandage dress, these like high-low skirts, you know, owl pendants.
Owl pendants should never be brought up over again. I mean, you know, fine, bring back low-waisted jeans. Go on, do it. Do not bring back owl necklaces because I will have a fit. Also, bandage dresses. Do you remember when they were like neon neon yellow or like cobalt blue? Disgusting.
Well, it was like the Hervé, was it Hervé Leger or Hervé?
Don't know.
Butchering it.
That sounds
was the,
horrible.
Like, that was like the designer who like properly, they were super expensive, and then it kind of filtered down to the high street, and that's when the like neon yellow bandage dress that you could probably get in Topshop
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like trends back then lasted a lot longer. So for example, the kind of skater girl trend where you'd wear like the fingerless gloves and like, you know, you'd be a bit emo, or you'd wear the kind of like the coral dresses with like a scarf wrapped around with an owl necklace. Like they kind of stayed in fashion for a little bit longer. And like, oh my God, you remember leg warmers? Let's not go back there. But now I feel like trends, like the article says, you know, the mob wife aesthetic already been out for a month. It's that kind of trope of like, it just comes in, it goes out, moving on to the next thing. But we didn't have that like skater girls out. Now bandage dresses are in like every week or like few days, which sometimes it's the case.
100%.
It's like overnight sometimes there's like a trend set.
So that moves us on to kind of the second theme that the article explores, which is trend fatigue and homogeneity. Kind of, they go on to talk about, as algorithms push these similar styles, people are increasingly dressing alike. This collective embrace of sameness might stem from the desire for comfort and reduced individuality, contrasting with earlier eras where fashion was more about personal choice. And what's also really interesting is there was an article from Hypebeast, which was actually released in 2013. And a quote from that was, could this in turn bring on an era where individuals, and more specifically men from around the world, are in essence dressing eerily alike to one another, a homogenization of menswear styles, so to speak? We think the answer is yes, and here's why. I've just shortened the following summarization, but they go on to say, Trade continues to drive consumer culture, but the rise of the internet and e-commerce has transformed fashion accessibility. Consumers can now shop globally, from Kickstarter startups to luxury brands on Mr. Porter or streetwear on Hypebeast. This ease of access levels the playing field, allowing individuals worldwide to purchase and receive identical items within days, blending consumer market like never before. They also go on to talk about lack of innovation and obviously the role that social media plays. But what really stood out is that was back in 2013 that they were touching on this. And it almost feels like, if anything, it's just
blown up. Yeah. And I guess what it's kind of saying is, because we have access to pretty much every country in the world and what is happening there at any one time in the world of social media, we can just tap into anything we want. We can tap into different styles. It doesn't take us to go to a different country, be like, oh, this is really cool that I found over here, this really quirky thing, and bring it back and be like, look how individual I am. Like, because someone's already seen that last week on TikTok.
Boring,
done, it's over. Like, oh my God, you're doing Mob Wife again? That was so last week. It's like the same kind of vibe, right?
Definitely. And it's just that speed of movement that like just keeps getting quicker and quicker. And I think also on the speed of consumption, I remember when I think it was like Kylie or Kendall Jenner wore this like sparkly dress to her birthday, and within like 2 days one of the fast fashion companies was manufacturing like a duplicate of it, and it was almost like the running joke was like, fuck, like, look at how quickly we got this out kind of thing. And I remember being like, this is also a little bit dark. Like, is fashion supposed to be made and consumed at this rate?
Definitely not. Like, absolutely not. I mean, the kind of eco standpoint of it is horrendous. Also, not to mention like the probably the toll on the workers that had, you know.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the fast fashion brands don't have a great track record for you know, paying their workers correctly and things like that. So yeah, I feel like a lot of things were harmed in the process of replicating that dress.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, it brings us back to the other end of the spectrum, which is kind of the anti-trend movement. So the article kind of goes on to talk about how there's a growing movement advocating for discreet mode dressing. So this is kind of characterized by minimalist and timeless pieces that emphasize quality over novelty. High-profile figures like Kylie Jenner are leading this shift. I think we've probably seen a lot of this recently. She's wearing a lot more classic items. There's been a lot of, she's in her old money era, floating around on Instagram and moving away from these more conspicuous trends. But I think I want to kind of ask, like, is that almost a trend in of itself?
I mean, it's all good and well Kylie Jenner being like, oh, let's do the anti-trend movement and like be a bit more like slow fashion. Yet her sister has like, you know, the Skims brand, which is all about kind of basics and like, you know, moving back to more classic looks and just like classic A-line dresses and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just, yeah, I am suspicious of that.
Even Kylie herself though, like she's been churning out fast fashion left, right and centre. Like what's the most recent one? Like Kai or something? And she's
can't even keep up.
You know, it's just ridiculous. So I totally agree with you. It's like, that's all well and good while they kind of hop on their private jet and turn out fast fashion for the masses.
Yeah. But then just turn around and be like, yeah, we need to be a bit more like anti-trend.
Yeah.
Like all you are is a trend. Sorry to not be a Kardashian hate podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that they base their entire careers on creating trends. That is what they do. That is their business. So therefore
they create the trend and then they sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, one thing that's really defined the last couple of years, probably kind of exacerbated by Succession, at least that's how I feel about it anyway, is this kind of stealth wealth, quiet luxury. And one thing we're seeing from some of these kind of stealth wealth brands is their kind of evolving role in pinging to the other end of the spectrum. So this is something the article kind of finishes on, which is we're seeing brands shift to reflect a rebellion against the visibility and pressure of social media. So they use examples like Phoebe Philo's label embracing exclusivity and privacy, whilst others like The Row, for example, limit digital exposure of their collection. So for example, I think it was their 2025 resort collection had a no phone or photo policy at their show. I also know if you go to one of their stores, you're not allowed to take pictures, you'll get told off, highlighting the appeal of being understated and off trend. And one of the quotes from the article is, Anti-algorithm style is not just influencing what we shop, but how we're shopping. The website for Phoebe Philo's eponymous label has a login section immune to SEO ranking and optimization, which is accessible by invite only.
So it's an elitist way to be individual, is what they're doing, which, okay, I guess is fine for people who can afford to be individual then, because is it then just the case that we're just too poor to be individual? Like we could go online. It would too poor to be individual. Basically what they're saying is you could go online, find an expensive jacket, find a designer jacket, and probably, you know, reverse image search it and find a cheaper version, which is, of course, they don't want that. They want you to buy their expensive $2,500 jacket. So I see why they're doing it. I do think that, I mean, I see it just day to day. I don't see anyone looking that individual. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I remember seeing people and being like, oh, they look kind of cool, or like they have something a bit quirky about them. And I think there is a bit of a, you know, there's a bit of a rebellion happening at the moment. I'm seeing a lot more like gothic emo coming back. I had seen that in Sydney actually like a few times, and I was like, ooh, you don't belong here, and I like it. Like, go for it. Like, I think it's great. I mean, my dad, he was like super into the kind of like individualist style in the 80s. Like, he was wearing like safety pins on his jacket. He had like bright orange hair, and there's like a photo of him in this leather jacket, bright orange hair, and like, you know, swimming goggles on, you know.
Very cool.
a little bit reflective of, you know, him being into kind of punk. But I don't think there is as much kind of rebellion in that way. And like the music that everybody listens to they're a kind of like scene for a different style. Like, you know, when we were growing up, maybe it was a bit more like indie rock, you know, we
big indie rock.
It was all about Arctic Monkeys and like call back to like Oasis. It was that kind of like, I mean, for me anyway, I'm from Hull, and everyone was like a bit more like
the OG indie sleaze kind of vibe. Yeah.
Wearing a few like bucket hats and like, you know, Stone Island and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, is not individual. It's very much a sign of that time. And everyone was dressing the same then. Everyone was kind of opting for that indie style.
Well, that was going to be my kind of next question, was like, do you think that everyone kind of was dressing the same back in the day? We just didn't have Instagram.
Good point.
Like, I don't know. I think I kind of look back in this like golden glow of, you know, back in our day. But, you know, I think about what me and my friends were wearing, and we probably all had a bit of a similar vibe. I think also when you're a teenager, like, you're very, you know, susceptible to trends because you're like, I want to fit in, I don't want to stand out. Like, and when you're at that age, there's that desire to like look, you know, on trend.
It's almost like the worst thing that can happen is to be looking different from someone else, because you're kind of like, I'm already feeling like I hate myself and I'm not comfortable with what I'm wearing because my mum bought it from like, I don't know, New Look, and I didn't like it or something. And you're already feeling, uncomfortable. And then what, you're going to try and be individual on the top of that. Yeah, it can be quite hard. It could be quite hard. Although I did wear white tights to school one time. So,
oh God,
as a little act of rebellion against their uniform code.
You're standing out.
Yeah, there was like, I think it was actually, you know, to go a little bit off topic, but they would stop me and my friend at the school gates because they said that our skirt was too short. So
they did that.
Me being me, petty as anything, I printed out their uniform code, and in the uniform code it said you could wear ivory tights. So me and my friend went and bought a pair of white tights each, and we carried around our like printed out piece of paper of the uniform code all day, like ready for somebody to like tell us about our like skirts being too short, so we could be, or the fact that we were wearing white tights, so we could be like, actually
come at us.
And yeah, no one actually said anything. And then it was maybe a couple of days later we got called in about wearing the white tights. They were like, were you wearing white tights the other day? And we said yes, because of X, Y, Z, because of the skirts. And we're like making a stand that you shouldn't have, you know, you shouldn't have to wear a longer skirt to school. Like, it's just a skirt. And they said, okay, you can wear the skirt if you don't wear the white tights again. So I won that one. But then a little bit later on, me and my friend, we actually noticed someone was wearing white tights.
Oh my God, trendsetter.
So maybe everyone does wear the same thing. Maybe everyone does dress the same.
You were like the Regina George of that moment. Like you had
the Regina George of white tights. A little funny anecdote there. But yeah, like it was just quite funny that was like a bit of an act of rebellion to the school uniform. And then, someone kind of copied it a week later in the year below.
Article goes to kind of wrap up that ultimately, in a trend-saturated world, the coolest statement is to avoid trends altogether, favouring enduring styles and understated elegance. And I think that's a nice place to kind of ask you, Lucy Bell, are we all dressing the same? Is it that deep?
I mean, I don't think it's that deep, but definitely everyone is dressing the same.
Yeah.
But I've kind of always thought that. I don't know whether that's just like in my own head. Like I've always kind of thought, oh yeah. And like even with the younger generation, they look a bit hip and cool and they have like the low-waisted jeans and the crop tops. And I'm like, yeah, that's just like a callback to like the 90s. Like it's this, we're just recycling trend after trend after trend. And I just think that, you know, we did that through history. We did that when we were younger. We recycled trends from years before, you know, the skater trend, you know, Blink 182 vibes, you know, we were in that. And like, looking forward now, it's happening the exact same. It's just faster.
Yeah, it is coming at such a rate now because you look at the pipeline of some of these collections, and you know, take that Kendall Jenner example we said earlier in the episode. If this is the rate we can produce clothes, and also now back to that Hypebeast article as well, like we all have access to it. Like we all have access to these collections, so like we're probably seeing what we did have before, but just at a more rapid global scale now.
Yeah, and maybe something cool that you saw on like a designer website, you know, that you thought was a bit quirky but was really expensive and unobtainable is now obtainable because people are just replicating it and 100%. Bringing it to the high street.
Like it's probably harder to be individual now than it ever has been. Like it's, you know, where does one go for their clothes where other people can't buy them? I guess thrifting is the answer to that, right?
I mean, my sister's a big thrifter. Honestly, sometimes like she'll come out with some amazing things. I'm like, how did you find that? And I think that's a testament to her, like, you know, just finding good bits that I wouldn't be able to see, that I'd be like, oh, that would look awful. But like she's thought about it in a different way. And I think, yeah, maybe that is the answer, like charity shopping, buying secondhand clothes.
Making your own
is the way to do it instead of just following these trends on TikTok Shop.
Definitely. And I think also the other thing, it's a bit boring maybe, but like economically, like, you know, it's a bit of a grim time right now. Do we have the finances to like buy something on a whim or see if it suits us, or something that's maybe a bit out there, a bit more gregarious, because we're all a bit conscious about our wallets now?
I think on that note, I think what we can probably take from this is, you know, everyone is probably dressing very similar. You know, we're in a time where it is a little bit more expensive to kind of really invest in individual time. But on the other hand, I think, you know, charity shops are there. People are recycling trends like nobody's business. So go out there and find a trend that's not on trend anymore and use it to your advantage.
Just wear whatever the fuck you like. Like, I think it's so easy to constantly, and we're both susceptible to this, like chasing the next thing, or like, oh, this pair of shoes would like make my life. When in reality, it's not that deep, and probably reconnecting with your own wardrobe is always going to be step number one, and clearing it out and digging out those shoes that you haven't worn in like 12 months, that they're going to feel new again because you haven't worn them in 12 months, rather than like firing up ASOS, I guess.
I think I am a little bit jaded by the trends at the moment. I'm a little bit like, seen it, done it, over it. And it would be great if somebody could kind of introduce me to something that's a little bit more individual, or a little bit more like, this is a bit out there and a bit not really, you know, in the cycle of trends. You know, and as soon as you do that, I'll probably go into the cycle of trends because that's just how it works. But yeah, please get in touch.
If you've seen anything vibey, hit us up.
And now it's time for...
And what a pile of bollocks!
If you've been listening, this is the time of the show where we just chat shit about something insignificant that just really rouses us up and fucks us off and makes us really angry. And this one today is really gonna make you angry, I think. What is it, Phoebe?
It's like the one time we've done this where you've known what I'm about to say.
And it's because we mutually agree.
Yeah. It's part-time Oasis fans.
Fucking part-time, or just Oasis fans,
I would
full
just
stop.
like to say, not an Oasis fan. I'm not in the camp of like, I'm a diehard, everyone has to be a diehard, not the point.
I'm a diehard, my favourite song is Champagne Supernova, let's go.
But when that tour went on sale, everyone called out the woodwork, didn't they? Everyone
Crawling out.
People that you just didn't even
Bucket
think.
hat on.
Parker.
Stone Island jacket on.
Just people you never would have thought even liked them were suddenly like feral for those tickets. And I'm just so not bothered.
Is this because these are the people that slandered Taylor Swift fans for being a bit crazy and wanting a Taylor Swift ticket? Potentially.
And now
how the tables have turned.
Now it's their Super Bowl.
Also, another thing to add on to this is their dynamic pricing system where it goes up the amount of people that are on the website. So people were spending like $3,000 for a ticket straight out from Ticketmaster. Did you ever see Taylor Swift doing that? You know, £150 was the top range of her tickets, not including like VIP prices. But yeah, fuck off, Oasis. Fuck off.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just so
over it.
So over it. Thank you so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a huge difference in helping others to discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs or follow us on Instagram @shallowpod or send us an email at shallow@boxedoff.studio. Shallow is a Boxed Off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.